Hey guys, it's Will here, welcome back to the channel. I hate to openly admit this on social media, but when I first started learning Chinese for the first few months, I actually used an app which pretty much everyone has heard of called Duolingo. Within that time I swiftly completed the whole tree. So did it make me fluent? In this video, I'm going to be delivering my final verdict on the app. Should you be using Duolingo to learn Chinese? So stick around until the end of the video to see my thoughts on that. But first, let's have a look at the design and the user experience of Duolingo. Let's get started. Now, the design of Duolingo is very much gamified and intended to be somewhat addictive. Now, I think personally this is quite a good thing, as a lot of people have troubles with building good habits in language learning and keeping habits up that they can continue for a long period of time, as obviously learning a language is a marathon and clearly not a sprint. Those emotionally blackmailing emails and notifications that you get from Duolingo when you don't keep up your streak will be quite helpful in keeping you on track with the habit and making sure that you're completing some language learning every day. The gamification certainly helped me in that I was able to keep up that streak for 2 or 3 months, I believe it was. And the courses themselves are very accessible in that they start off at a very beginner level. So even as a beginner in Chinese, this is definitely something that you could be able to use and not really have any problems with, and that it would be too difficult to understand. So now let's look at the effectiveness of Duolingo. Well, the SRS that was implemented, that is the spaced repetition software used in Duolingo, in my opinion, was nowhere near as good as Anki or other applications that are designed specifically for that purpose. By the way, spaced repetition is this idea of reviewing things at ever-extending intervals so that you review it just before you're going to forget it, therefore making that memory trace stronger and get it into long-term memory a bit faster. Secondly, in all honesty, some of the sentences that you'll find in Duolingo are somewhat weird and native speakers would never actually say them. Now, I totally get this idea of trying to make things memorable. It's something that I try and do in my own learning of languages. I just really don't believe using weird sentences that native speakers would never actually say could be of much use. I mean, is there any point in them being really memorable if you're never actually going to use them? Furthermore, there's this massive focus on learning characters and words out of context before then putting them into context in these weird sentences which native speakers probably wouldn't say. Now, if you've stuck around on this channel for long enough, you'll know that I'm really keen on learning things in context from the start. So this kind of violates one of my own language learning principles here. Next, the text-to-speech of Duolingo wasn't very natural. Now, the problem with that is, as we all know, the pronunciation of Mandarin is really quite difficult for a foreigner, for a non-native speaker. So if you're using something that's not really that natural, that's not going to be of much help in that sense. It's a lot better to have a more natural text-to-speech function, or ideally a native speaker to help you with pronunciation. And most importantly, Duolingo really didn't make me fluent in Chinese. I believe it was a combination of a lot of other things that I started months later that really helped with getting me to the level where I am today. Also, what I found was the majority of the vocabulary and sentences that I started learning on Duolingo, I had very poor recall. So as a result of that, I ended up moving them all into Anki. That is the normal sentences. Like, Duolingo does have some sentences that are normal. I'm not just completely going at them here with their sentence choice. So I moved the majority of these sentences that were normal from Duolingo into Anki in order to improve my recall and to practice them a bit better with a more efficient algorithm. So my verdict. Overall, Duolingo is a really interesting and fun introduction to my Chinese learning. However, it didn't really offer much more than that. I believe that there's a lot better choices that can personalize your learning and optimize your retention. So as I said, I believe there's tools and techniques which would be lots more efficient than Duolingo for serving our purpose of learning Mandarin efficiently. Now, the main alternative for me is using sentence mining to learn sentences that are relevant and personal to you in context, with a really good spaced repetition system to help you do so. So going back to that idea that Duolingo tries to make these sentences more memorable by using somewhat weird sentences, my alternative for that would be to implement a good spaced repetition system, only learn vocabulary and ideally chunks. If you want to know more about chunks, you can check out some of my other videos. Learn them in context, make them personal and relevant to you by picking sentences that you think are useful and that you want to use in everyday conversation. That all being said, Duolingo definitely did help me build some basic vocabulary. However, if I was going to go back to the start of my Mandarin learning journey and look again at what resources I could use to do the same thing, here would be a few of the choices that I would probably make in hindsight. Firstly, the HSK textbooks, up to about 3 or 4, are actually quite conversational and include a lot of basic, very common vocabulary that would definitely be useful for a beginner to learn. I think when it comes to HSK 5 and 6 and further, a lot of that can be a lot more academic or 书面语, written language. Probably not really that useful for the everyday beginner who wants to just get conversation in Mandarin. Secondly, I would definitely look at trying to get some sentences from graded readers. Now, my 2 favorite graded readers for beginners in Chinese are 2 really cool companies, the first of which is called Mandarin Companion, which provides these really awesome graded readers from a very low vocabulary level and are really interesting and fun. And secondarily, we have Hanyu, which is a bit cheaper than Mandarin Companion, but in my opinion, equally as effective. And I used both of them quite a lot during the early stages of my Mandarin journey. Finally, I would go and check out the amazing range of beginner comprehensible input YouTube channels that now exist. So I've talked about a lot of these in another video, which you can go and check out. I've left links in the description to the majority of these YouTube channels. Please let me know if you find any more and drop them down in the comments below to help other learners. But these are really cool as they, again, are like graded readers in the fact that they use very basic, limited vocabulary and they're spoken very slowly and clearly to really help you pick out some important sentences quite early on and also practice your listening skills. So go and check them out. So that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope you guys have enjoyed it. Let me know what you think of my opinion on Duolingo. How has your experience been with using Duolingo to learn Mandarin or other languages? Let me know down in the comments below. Alright, I'll see you next time, guys. Take care. Bye bye.